Warning: this video will contain spoilers for the movie, so I advise you to click off this video unless you're someone who has already seen this movie, a manga reader, or you're someone who doesn't give two shits about spoilers and just wants to hear another person talk about it. With that being said, let's begin. So on September 12th, I decided to go to the movie theater to watch Demon Slayer Infinity Castle, or Mugen Castle? Wait, hold on. So the translation for the word Mugen is infinity. I have no idea why the name of this movie is called Infinity Castle, but the first Demon Slayer movie is called Mugen Train instead of Infinity Train. Can someone explain to me why that is? Anyway, I went to see the new Demon Slayer movie and my expectations were absolutely met, if not surpassed with how good the movie actually was. It was my first time watching an anime movie in theaters, and I was hoping I wasn't gonna die inside the theater, not because of how good the movie was, but because of how bad the stench was gonna be from these weebs. But thankfully, it seems like Demon Slayer fans actually take showers, unlike other anime fans. Nah, psych, but for real though, you guys gotta understand that I am not the type of person that goes to the movie theater often. I only go to the cinema for a movie that I really wanna watch, or a movie that is clearly a major event. I remember I watched Endgame and I was so disappointed by how utterly dogshit that movie was, unlike this movie. Now, I'm not gonna waste my time, so I'm just gonna start talking about the movie right away. So the movie starts off by showing the trees and Gilmei walking at a cemetery, which is pretty similar to how Mugen Train started off, which is pretty cool. The scene is then followed by a recap of the last episode of season 4, where Gilmei is talking to Ubuyashiki, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I was not fucking with this scene at all, because why are we getting a recap? Like, we all know why we're in this movie theater, but at the very least, even though it was a recap, it had a completely different animation, and when they showed the camera pan behind Gilmei's back with the sunset, it looked so crisp. I was thinking, damn, this movie already looks clean. They're going this stupid over the 3D on the reanimated recap from the last season? Yeah, I knew they were gonna go crazy with this movie. After the trash and pointless recap, the scene cuts to where we left off at the end of season 4, and the surge of thrill and hype was so high with the intense music playing in the background. See, I watched this movie in IMAX and Jesus Christ, the sound is so damn loud. I thought my eardrums were gonna burst, but it honestly enhanced the experience because I could just feel the music vibrating through my chest. I could hear Amer's incredible voice playing while my eyes were just completely glued to the screen as I see Ufotable just straight up flex with their godlike animation. You pretty much see all the demon slayers falling inside the Infinity Castle, and I honestly think it's so impressive with how Ufotable was able to absolutely elevate the source material and make the setting feel so dynamic and alive. The only thing that I thought was so corny about this scene was Mitsuri. This girl is over here fangirling when Muzan pulled up and killed their sensei, and it's like, yo, even if you don't know the full context of the situation, be fucking serious. Like, what? But anyway, honestly, I gotta give credit to the mangaka and the studio because they cooked so damn hard. Sometimes when the animation for an anime is so good, it almost takes me out of it. Not necessarily in a bad way, but in a way where it makes me say, bro, why are they flexing so hard? With this movie, however, I wasn't even thinking about how hard they were flexing. They were able to capture the chaotic and disorienting nature of the castle so well that I couldn't help but feel completely immersed, almost as if I was experiencing it with the characters. It's not just the animation, but the music for this movie is really good too. Just from this scene, the music is dark and epic, and you just hear the orchestral chants in the background. You hear echo reverbs, and just from that, makes the movie feel very cinematic. See, when I watched Mugen Train, the overall vibe of the movie didn't feel that cinematic, because it kind of felt like I was watching regular anime episodes packed into a movie. This movie, however, the vibes were definitely different and made it seem like I was really watching not just a film, but a large-scale cinematic experience, like I was part of a big event. And this is all just the beginning of the movie. And yeah, the pacing of the movie, you can say that it works better as a show, but I'm not exactly talking about how the events are structured throughout the movie. I'm just talking about the overall vibe. Okay, Shinobu versus Doma. Yeah, so this is the first fight of the movie, and this movie has 3 fights, and I'd say that this is definitely the second best fight of the entire movie. We see Shinobu enter this palace or whatever the hell this place is. It looks beautiful though. Before was just constantly cooking with making the setting look absolutely gorgeous. We see Doma sitting down eating a bunch of different women, and the vibe is already creepy as hell. I feel like they did a really good job at capturing how eerie and disgusting the scene was, because I feel like Demon Slayer, despite being a very violent and gory show, the vibe feels kind of, how do I say, cartoonish. I'm not sure how to explain it, but the overall atmosphere that the anime creates when it comes to demons doesn't really capture the horror element that I feel like it's capable of. It's almost like an odd feeling of desensitization to the violence due to the shonen aspect of, oh, can the good guy take down this horrible demon? I feel like that overwrites my feelings of, oh shit, this is actually creepy, you know? But anyway, the fight itself is pretty good. When Shinobu shows her anger, it feels very natural. The voice actor did her job, and honestly, it was executed in a way where it didn't feel out of place at all, considering the series has established her character as someone who bottles up her emotions. However, I will also say that it does kind of feel out of place in a way, because the series never dived too deep into Shinobu's character and her connection with Doma. And this all ties back to the problem that I had with season 4, and I talked about this on a separate video on my channel, which you should watch. Season 4, which covered the Hashira training arc, was supposed to be an arc that focused on fleshing out its characters. The anime stretched the living shit out of the actual content in the manga and decided to drag it out. And despite them dragging the pacing, they still didn't take the time to thoroughly flesh out as many characters as they possibly can. There was a lot of setup or little hints, right? And I knew this shit was going to be a problem in the movie. I called this shit in our other Demon Slayer video, because I'm over here watching the training arc, being so disappointed that they didn't show Shinobu and Kanao's conversation. It's like they were about to talk about it, and boom, they just don't show it. So off rip, I knew that the pacing of this movie was going to be interrupted by flashbacks. And by the way, I don't know what happens in the manga, so this is not me with hindsight. I really hate it when anime does this shit, when there's a climatic moment happening and it gets interrupted with a flashback, because it just ruins the momentum. Like, if you're gonna do these flashbacks, do it before the hype moments happen. Because of these flashbacks, I'm definitely gonna have to lower my rating for the movie, because that shit was not it. Now, even though I didn't like how the flashbacks were paced due to the story's decision in dumping them in the final stretch of the story, rather than having them in the training arc, I will say that the content of these flashbacks were very good. Shinobu's flashback with her sister was pretty good, fleshing out her motivations as a demon slayer. It wasn't an amazing flashback or anything, but it was cool. The flashback of her pondering about her insecurities for being small compared to other people was alright. It just felt a bit random, because I just feel like this show never properly established her character trait as a short and small person. You know, it's not like she's a midget or anything, so her rambling on about her complex on being short was kind of, okay, I didn't know that's how you felt, but alright, I guess. And I also want to talk about Doma. Man, I know a lot of people hate Doma, but yo, this dude is hilarious. He has to be the funniest character in the show. When he gave Shinobu a warm and heartfelt hug, I was like, nah, this man is goated. He's so funny, and I'm gonna say this. I hate the comedy in Demon Slayer. I think the comedy is absolute garbage, corny, and childish, but Doma is one funny ass dude. This is not supposed to be funny, it's supposed to be heart-wrenching, but he's just way too funny. This man is a rage baiter. He's the ultimate troll. His character didn't even get thoroughly fleshed out from what I've seen, and he barely has any depth to his character, but his personality is so entertaining that I just can't help but say he was one of the highlights of this movie. When we're talking about zesty, flamboyant ass anime characters, this man Doma has to be in top 3. Hisoka who? Dio who? Man, get them the hell out of here. It's Doma supremacy over here in the Realist channel. And I just really like how they executed Shinobu's death and her last words. Like, that shit felt raw, not some cartoonish any last words. Like, no, she didn't give a grand speech or anything. She just told him to go to hell and she just dies. That shit is raw. I mean, everything about this fight, and also a lot of the scenes in this movie just feel real and authentic in terms of how the characters act and behave. For example, when Doma is talking and Shinobu immediately thrusts her sword in his eye, that shit had no build up. It's almost damn near a jump scare, but I really mess with that. I feel like those aspects made the movie more immersive. But yeah, anyway, the music was great. It was really unique for Shinobu. Definitely one of the more unique soundtracks that I've heard from Demon Slayer. In terms of the animation, it was solid. However, there was one scene where I was like, "Oh, this looks weird." I can show this scene since it's already shown in one of the trailers, but they basically just move like PNG images. It just looked really awkward, and if they did that on purpose, trying to emphasize on Doma's freezing technique, yo, I don't give a fuck. That shit still look ugly. But other than that, Shinobu versus Doma was decent. I really like the scene where Shinobu is just saying, damn, like why the fuck is that poison not working? Like you can really feel her frustration, and that feels so real. Zenitsu versus Kaigaku. Yeah, this fight is without a doubt the worst fight of the entire movie. This is the first time we are introduced to Kaigaku as the Upper Moon Demon. Yutaro and Daki got killed in season 2, so we have Kaigaku as the replacement, and it's pretty hilarious that he dies like 30 minutes after he gets introduced. Man, this fight kind of sucks. I'm just gonna say this. In terms of the flashbacks for Zenitsu and Kaigaku, and how they used to have a relationship as fellow disciples under their master, it was really good. I'd say it was definitely better than Shinobu's backstory because I feel like they really went into depth with Zenitsu and his dynamic with other characters. I like the whole idea of how you get this duality between Zenitsu and Kaigaku, and how Zenitsu has a solid grasp on the fundamentals of his training, while Kaigaku is the complete opposite, who skips the fundamentals while also being very selfish. The only thing about the flashback is I thought Kaigaku's motivation was extremely petty, and honestly, I wasn't really feeling his character too much because it was like, holy shit, you're this tight over your master not giving you enough attention? Man, grow the fuck up. Like, I get that this type of behavior is common with people, but that doesn't mean I thought it was great. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it was garbage or anything, but the motivation just felt flat to me. I feel like it's even worse considering I barely even knew who this man was until they showed him this movie. Shit, as a matter of fact, in season 4, when Zenitsu just randomly had an epiphany after reading that letter, they didn't even show us Kaigaku or gave us a hint that it was him. This is another thing that adds to the problem of the story, not sprinkling in breadcrumbs prior to the climax of the series. It's like, I want to have a solid grasp on the characters and where everyone is coming from before I witness those high fights. And also, Zenitsu being able to solo an Upper Moon is just, I don't know, man, that's just dumb as shit. Kaigaku has to be the biggest fraud of Demon Slayer so far. Overall, the content of the fight was good, better than Shinobu's story, but the execution was garbage and handled poorly to where it just seems like Zenitsu beats him with a crazy ass pull. Besides that, the animation, it was great, the music was great, and all of that was great, but the story, the writing, garbage. Alright, let's talk about the best fight of the movie. I'ma say it. Akaza is the GOAT. He's gotta be top 5 best characters of the entire series, and he is without a doubt the best demon of the series as of right now. I really fuck with his character, and I have to respect the fact that he was able to steal the spotlight for 2 Demon Slayer movies that were able to break records of the Japanese box office. You know, a lot of people went in this movie hating Akaza because of what he did to Rengoku. I remember that scene in Mugen Train when Akaza is running away from the sun, right? This man Tanjiro throws his sword at him, calls him a pussy, and Akaza is over here like, is this kid stupid? I'm not running away from y'all, I'm running away from the sun. When he said this, some people might have thought to themselves he was still a coward, but for me, that was like the funniest shit ever because he was so baffled at how wrong Tanjiro was. Like, this man Akaza is not a coward, he's just not a dumbass, don't get it twisted. And that's why I've always messed with Akaza, since he's a character who's very authentic. He has his own morals that he consistently sticks to, and it carries in this movie. In terms of the animation, this fight is definitely the best animated fight of the entire movie. Actually, as a matter of fact, I might have to say this fight is probably the best animated fight of the entire series as a whole, because the way they were able to integrate the 3D and the 2D was just incredible. I mean, what other anime is utilizing 3D this well with 2D? There's literally no other anime that is doing it, at least right now. Now, I feel like usually when people praise a scene in anime that has godlike animation, usually it's like a 2D Sakuga fest, right? But with Demon Slayer, they were able to have great animation mixed with godlike CGI, and the fact that the 3D is being utilized with the Infinity Castle, which is such a crazy and ambitious setting to anime, is just really impressive. It's not just the animation that makes this fight so good, but it's also the way the fight is directed. The fight, it feels so damn raw. It feels like everything is happening at that moment. You know, it's not like the typical anime bullshit where they'll have a character do their crazy transformations while everyone else is waiting for the villain to transform and then fight. No, there's a lot of scenes in this fight that are just very spontaneous. There's a couple scenes with Akaza that were really good. There's this one scene where he just starts doing Chun-Li kicks, and when I saw him do that, I was so hyped, and for some odd reason, I was like rooting for Akaza, because seeing the exhilaration and not exactly desperation, but how passionately aggressive he is, just makes you want to go see him go crazy. The music was absolutely fire for a lot of these fights. The way some of these fights were able to integrate the music with the scenes were very well directed. There's this one scene where Akaza is in the air and this man Gyu is running at him from a distance, and the moment Akaza lands on his feet, the music gets really loud, creating an insane amount of adrenaline for the viewers. So pretty much in terms of the production, this fight was really good. Now in terms of the writing, it was overall great. I know I said I had a problem with the pacing of the flashbacks, but I think the flashback for Akaza was handled the best because they were able to allocate the longest flashback for the final portion of the movie. And I feel like them saving the best for last was pretty good for the pacing compared to the other flashbacks. In terms of Akaza's backstory, I fucked with it. It was definitely really good and it made me appreciate his character a lot. I really love how a lot of the details of his physical appearance has a connection with his past. The fact that his special snowflake move has a resemblance to his wife's hairpin, it's a really nice touch, and all the tattoos on Akaza's body, you know, it looks really cool. The Demon Slayer has never cooked with how much depth a character has while simultaneously connecting the depth of their character with their character design. In terms of the backstory itself, Akaza grew up in an impoverished background and he had to steal whatever he could in order to provide for his father, who was physically unwell. And honestly, I can't have full sympathies for Akaza because it's like, hey, I understand that you're in a shitty environment and it's making you do a bunch of messed up stuff like stealing and beating people up, but bro, you really couldn't have tried finding a job at McDonald's or the nearest Walmart or anything like that. You had to resort to stealing. It's like, hey, I'm sorry that the world did this to you, but you still gotta face the consequences at the end of the day. Also, another thing I thought was, I thought this was really weird from Akaza's backstory. This man's sensei. Like, why was he so friendly? This man was way too friendly. He had his eyes closed at all times like he was Brock, always had a smile on his face. It's like, why did he just decide to take someone who he knew was a criminal and have him be near around his sick daughter? Even Akaza asked this question, even he was confused, and the sensei is like, oh yeah, it's because I fixed you by punching you 1,000,000 times. It's like, what? This man has to have a sixth sense that allows him to judge a person's character just by looking at them, because this was kind of corny. But besides that, everything was pretty good, and I really enjoyed how they were able to dive into his psychology and the reasoning for his stigma against quote-unquote weak people. Instead of having a cookie-cutter villain who despises the weak, we get a thoroughly fleshed out villain that gives depth to that mindset. He doesn't simply hate the weak, he just hates the weak for their snake-like behavior. People who would rather use underhanded tricks instead of confronting them fairly. And the way the story fleshed out his character, it pretty much ties a lot of things together and makes the Rengoku fight a lot more meaningful. Oh, by the way, something I want to say about this movie is that a lot of people think this movie would have worked way better as a season rather than a movie, and I'm not too mad at that opinion. I wouldn't mind if this was a season, but to be honest, I'm also not too mad at the fact that this turned out to be a movie. For all things considered, the format of the story actually works really well as a movie, and the reason why is because the structure and events that play out in the movie are nicely tied and connected by the end of the film. Not to mention, This is literally the first part of a trilogy, and it's not supposed to cover an entire arc in one film, so it doesn't exactly have to be a standalone story, but rather as an individual installment where each part works almost as an anthology piece that later combines as one complete standalone once the trilogy is finished. Basically, what I'm saying is, it's almost like each part has its own standalone mini-story that will eventually contribute to an actual standalone story like your traditional film. I mean, bro, the beginning of the movie is literally Tanjiro and Giyu linking up, and at the end of the movie is them taking down an upper moon. That's pretty damn conclusive. I could understand if they were still fighting Akaza and the fight continued to the second movie, but no, that's not what happened. Akaza's death was a great substitute for the conclusion of a mini-story. There weren't even any bad cliffhangers besides, what, Kokushibo getting teased, but that's just the tease. And overall, the story for the first part felt conclusive. And I don't know if I'm the only one who noticed this, because I haven't really seen anyone's reviews for this movie, but I thought it was so poetic how in the beginning portion of the movie, we see Shinobu get hugged by Doma. And in the final portion of the movie, we see Akaza turn into his past self, Hakuji, hugged by Koyuki. It's crazy how both of those hugs embody the concept of emotional connection, the idea of compassion, but in ways that are completely different. Doma hugs Shinobu in a twisted, mocking gesture, a hollow imitation of affection that shows how his humanity is completely stripped away from him. Meanwhile, Koyuki's embrace of Hakuji is the purest form of love, the very thing that restores his humanity. And to think that in the beginning of the movie, it was the villain that gave this false hug to the hero, and in the end of the movie, it's the villain that gets embraced with a genuine hug. Look, talk all that shit about how the structure of this movie didn't work as a film, but they found a way to tie things together. And a lot of standalone movies, they love to tie things together by the end of the film. Yo, I don't even know if they did this shit intentionally, but it doesn't matter. I can't believe how hard they cooked with this juxtaposition. Yo, now that I'm saying this, I'm actually fucking baffled. But yeah, honestly, that's all I'm gonna really say about this movie. I'm not trying to be here for too long. All the characters, they did their thing. Ubuyashiki's son, he was the GOAT. The animation is absolutely peak. Pretty much set a new standard for how well the 2D and 3D were integrated. The animators, they were on crack when they showed the Infinity Castle change its dimensions when the credits showed up on screen. The music was amazing, and the animation for this movie, it's a lot better than the anime. It's not like Mugen Train where it looks similar to the anime with slightly improved animation. No, this movie clearly looks like it's on a separate tier from the actual series. So anyone who tells you this movie looks no different from the anime is just yapping.